Live from Las Vegas, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker, a podcast filled with raw and unfiltered conversations on how to give life's challenges the finger. Truth is your passport to emotional freedom. Give an eviction notice to negativity. Dump yesterday's garbage. Learn how to be positive, energized, healthy, and alive during these insanely unpredictable times. Look up, get up, stay up, then help somebody else to get up. Remember, any part of Up is higher than down. Broadcasting hope to the world, this is L.A. Walker.
Hi, everybody. You know, looking up, getting up, and staying up sounds great, and it is great. And we relish that idea when everything is right. Yeah, the car started, no car trouble. My job is doing great. Business has been a little slow, but I found a way to overcome it. My house note is paid. My health is great. My family's doing really, really well. My marriage is awesome. The sex is great. We're getting along. Everything is just moving smoothly. I'm driving home. The traffic pattern is going my way. Everything is just fine until the phone rings. What? Oh, no. Really? Yeah, your auntie that was going to loan you the $5,000 to tide you over, she's in the hospital. She's sick with COVID. You hear a noise outside. What's that? Actually, it's a crash. Someone has backed into your car. And it seems minor at first when you look at it and that person is standing there and they say, I don't have any insurance. While you're trying to think of ways that you can bring yourself up, that you can look up, get up and stay up and wash off the negativity, the phone rings again. It's your friend that has a serious problem and you don't want to listen. You don't have time to listen, but it's your turn to listen. How in the world do you find a way to look up, get up, and stay up from there? Well, a lot of us pray. A lot of us meditate. Some of us meditate and medicate, and we'll talk about that in just a moment.
This is 10. Listen, I don't know if you have been able to make your way over to lawalker.life on Facebook, but if you haven't, do yourself a favor, run over there and just read the snippets of her new book. She's writing a new book, and it is titled Seeing Beyond the Mess. What I've read so far is exactly what the title says. It is so raw and open. You know, there is the purity in being honest, no matter how ugly the honesty is. The book is so exciting. There's so much I could say about it. And like I keep saying the book is not finished, but the snippets that I have read, it feels as if I have read the book, you know, that I love it. So many things that she spoke on reached me, grabbed me, and pulled me in. If you're not first in line to get your book, when this book drops, if you're not first in line, you better be second in line. Because, yeah, it's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. It is. lawalker.life, Seeing Beyond the Mess.
You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker.
How do we look up, get up, and stay up? Well, a lot of us do pray. A lot of us have a really good communication and a good spiritual life, and we do all that we can to take our burden to the Lord and leave it there. And sometimes we don't. We just keep dragging it back with us. But we also have good relationships. Sometimes our spouses will say, hey, honey, what's wrong? Let's talk. But you know, the truth is, very often when they say that, they really want to talk about what's on their minds. And sometimes you just can't talk because you haven't even figured out what is wrong with you and how to articulate what is going on. And so then you learn how to medicate, self-medicate. Now, some of us medicate different ways. Some of us medicate with a little wine. On our Facebook page, Up is Higher Than Down, I ask people on our page, the members of the group, I say, what do you do, to make yourself feel better during this time? A lot of them say they listen to music, they talk to friends, they get a nice glass of wine. In my case, it would have to be tequila. We have other people who do other things. They smoke a little bit, have a little edibles. It's legal in most places now, and that's okay. But that's not good for long term. So what do you do for a long term breakaway from all of the news, from all of the negative phone calls and conversations? Most of us watch cable or stream. I know it. And we watch cable and stream, and we enjoy living our lives vicariously through the lives of the characters in whatever series we're watching. What happens, though, at the end is insane. I remember watching many, many programs, and at the end, I was so down because it was over. It was over. And if you have that feeling, I want to tell you that you and I are victims. We can turn to cable, we can watch movies, we can watch series, we can watch reality TV series, and that helps us for a while, but the only problem is we trade one problem for another, and we wind up getting EOSD. What is that? End of series depression syndrome. How do I know if I have EOSD syndrome? Well, it might look like this. You become one of the characters. Just think about one of your favorite series, be it reality TV or be it a produced series. Think about it. Which character am I? And you follow that storyline all the way through. You must watch every episode. It doesn't matter what else is going on. You find a way to watch the episode. It doesn't matter if you have company, if someone calls, if you have an appointment, you've got to get back and watch the next episode. Sometimes you might binge watch the episodes all the way through, every day, all day, until it comes to an end. And you begin to get nervous at the thought of the series coming to an end and look ahead. Let me see. How many episodes remain? When you know your syndrome is severe is when you go back to the first episode and look at that little line across the bottom of the box of the episode to make sure you watch the entire episode. And you watch any of them that have any remaining minutes. Any breaks in that line at the end, it could be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. Like a junkie, you got to go back and eat it all. Here's how you've really reached that junkie status. Because you cannot bear the thought of the series ending, period. You just can't take it. You rewatch episodes, you convince yourself that you didn't understand those episodes, so let me watch them again. I know I'm talking to somebody right now. You've done all to prolong the inevitable and the series ends. OMG, you are now the owner of EOSD, end of series depression syndrome. How do I know? 'Cause I got it too. When you find out that your series is not getting a new season, turmoil, all panic ensues. Now what am I going to do? COVID has messed up everything, even TV. So now I have to find a new series, and it doesn't seem like anything, no matter how many channels I have, is going to meet my needs the way the last series did. And then, of course, it doesn't. Something happens. Another series comes along, and you start the process all over again. EOSD syndrome. Anybody else admitting to this? I am so happy to have with me today a friend. And I know he's a friend because he allowed me to talk him into taking a lead role in the revision of a play that I wrote along with my spouse, Terry Horton Walker, and Alexis Newman, called No Labels, which is about a homophobic dog that gets adopted by a gay couple and, as you can imagine, freaks out. Chuck Stutz. Chuck is best known in our community as Mr. Volunteer. He's put in countless hours volunteering for the Human Rights Campaign and many other organizations. He's a songwriter, and presently he's writing a book entitled My Father's Son. We've been talking about EOSD. And it was so funny because I posted that on our Up is Higher Than Down group page. And one of the persons that responded says, I've never heard of that before. I said, yeah, I know, because I just made it up.
Actually, when you first started talking about that, I Googled it. The Urban Dictionary thing came up, and I'm like, this is not what she's talking about. I guess I'll have to wait and chat with her to find out. It must be a new symptom or something.
Yeah, it's an end of series depression syndrome. And I started talking about that actually with a family counselor. We were joking around last year, and I was saying, I noticed that I have started watching television, which I was never an avid television watcher. And that's pretty much because growing up, my mom was very strict on what I saw, and I had a strict bedtime. And so my bedtime was at 8:30, and at 8:15, she started telling me, you got to get ready to go to bed. So that didn't matter to her where I was in my television watching. And so I got accustomed to going to bed in the middle of things, and so I just gave up on TV. My long story short, I just didn't even care about TV.
Right.
But I needed a relief from all this Trump administration stress. And then, of course, the COVID stress. And I have been binge watching TV like crazy. And I noticed when I got to the end of a series that I had binged watched, I was so sad. I was like, it can't be coming to an end. This is wrong.
Right, exactly. Well, because you've invested time in characters and stuff, and we all know that these are actors and actresses portraying a fictional character. But because I myself have become very emotionally invested in certain shows over the years, and was very sad when they ended. And this was before the pandemic, so I've always kind of and worse. It's a totally different category. I don't know if we can come up with a name for this, but series that get canceled.
Okay. So here's the story. I had no idea, because again, I wasn't a big television watcher, that the series weren't going to come back, be renewed, their seasons be renewed. Uh-huh. And that was a shock to me. But actually, it's so much nicer when they say it's not going to be renewed. But when they say it's canceled, which is the same thing, it just sounds so final. I mean, it's like a cremation. It's like, I'm like, what?
Canceled carries a lot of weight. Renewed is much more renewal. Just the word renewal, okay? But not renewed. It's like it's a soft way of saying, guess what? You're not going to find out about what happened. It was like years ago when they canceled 30-something. I was so... Oh my God, I was so mad because for me, 30-something, either you love 30-something or you hate 30-something.
Exactly.
But season 3, when Nancy's character was diagnosed with cancer, it became more of a show, less about yuppie problems like, okay, I'm a mom, I used to work, now I've got kids, and I'm feeling unfulfilled. And I couldn't really identify with those storylines, but I liked the show because I liked the ensemble cast and everything. But as the series went on, and then when Nancy got cancer, it became much more about something that I'm not saying that child rearing doesn't matter. Of course it matters, okay, but it's like it became something for these characters where they couldn't control it, and it was out of their hands, and it became much more epic. It became bigger, and then you had like a lot of really soft memories good scenes between the characters in which they were forced to confront something that basically could possibly have the last word on this woman's life, and it became much more. It became much more involved, and I just noticed that it just became a better show. But then when it just ended after 4 years, I was just like, what? Wait a minute.
Well, a couple of things come to mind. In my era, TV shows stayed on for years. And so the thought that these shows would end in 6 weeks or a month or even a
Right.
year was like unconscionable to me. I'm like, what? Are you serious right now? The show was so good.
Right.
That's one
Exactly.
thing. And the other thing is that now the writers are really allowing themselves to have their characters undress. I mean, in a way that undressing their vulnerability. And they're very transparent with all types of emotional situations, which is very helpful, I find, right now. Because I think we're all going through some interesting emotions and some we have never really visited before.
Well, you know what? And I totally agree with you on that, because one of my current favorite shows that is actually on network, and it's airing like the old days. It's like it comes on every Tuesday night. Is This Is Us, and This Is Us came back, and This Is Us is dealing with the pandemic in real time.
Okay.
Yeah, and just like you said, it's dealing with a lot of in addition to what they normally deal with, which is a lot. Because it's a very well acted, very well written show. Reminds me of 30-something in that aspect.
It does.
And and what they're dealing with now is surviving in a pandemic and navigating the way that we are now. And I almost said a phrase, the new normal, which I really have some issues with, because I think psychologically it's not a good thing, because obviously this is not the new normal. Okay, it's a normal for a certain amount of time, but we will eventually get back to the way we were, and I think it's going to be different when we get back to that. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. But I think right now it's just like there's programs like this. When you see your characters dealing with the things that you're dealing with and how they respond and how they move forward from that, it can be very psychologically helpful.
I think very much so. And, most of us were raised to keep all of our emotions packed in very tight suitcases. And so now, being able to watch various shows that allow us to see characters unpacking their emotions, I think that's very good for us to see, because some of us have no practice at that at all, and can't afford and don't want to go to years of therapy in order to accomplish that. So I think in many ways these series do a very good job in assisting us through this time.
I totally agree with you on that, because I found it helpful. I've always been kind of like, TV when I was a kid, had to have my homework done and everything else. But, I was able to, I had like a little bit of a less strict upbringing with my parents when it came to TV, which is kind of ironic, because they were very strict on other aspects of my childhood. But TV was never an issue. I mean, I was allowed to watch soap. I'm sure you remember that one back in the 70s. And I was allowed to watch All in the Family, Sanford and Son. And those were shows that were very controversial in that time frame.
Sure they were.
And they did so much, particularly All in the Family, of holding a mirror up to our society and to the audience and saying, what you see may not be the most attractive side of humanity, but it does exist. And what I liked about All in the Family is that it wasn't judgmental.
No.
Chief Bunker was a very uneasy character to watch, but you could take some lessons from watching that show. As far as the type of human that you want to be, and do you want to succumb to your inner thoughts on race and religion and
gender, because I knew then I was gay, because I never wanted to be Edith under any circumstances. I cannot be that woman. I cannot ever be that woman. Chuck, I know you're anxious to respond, but hold your thought about Edith Bunker. We'll be right back after this.
This is 10. Listen, I don't know if you have been able to make your way over to lawalker.life on Facebook, but if you haven't, do yourself a favor, run over there and just read the snippets of her new book. She's writing a new book, and it is titled Seeing Beyond the Mess. What I've read so far is exactly what the title says. It is so raw and open. You know, there is the purity in being honest, no matter how ugly the honesty is. The book is so exciting. There's so much I could say about it. And like I keep saying the book is not finished, but the snippets that I have read, it feels as if I have read the book, you know. That I love it. So many things that she spoke on reached me, grabbed me, and pulled me in. If you're not first in line to get your book, when this book drops, if you're not first in line, you better be second in line. Because, yeah, it's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. It is. LAWalker.life, Seeing Beyond the Mess.
You're listening to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker.
Never be that woman.
You mean as far as her being married to Archie?
Yes.
Or
yes.
Her as a character?
No, her as a character and as a person. As the story continued to unfold, she was quality all the way. But being a woman and being so submissive to this idiot was just more than I could stand. It was like, and that was expected behavior at that time.
No, and you know what? You're totally right about that, because it was. Because we're talking about All in the Family came on, 1970?
Yes.
And ran through the 70s, and then it became Archie Bunker's Place, and was a totally different show from where it began. But you know what? Jean Stapleton, who played Edith, there were moments, and I totally agree with what you're saying about the character itself, but there were like moments in certain episodes where she had a moment and she stood up to Archie, or she spoke out on things that she was expected to agree with, but internally did not agree with. So she had quite a few good moments there. I mean, one example is the female impersonator character.
Oh, that was a heavy show.
Beverly LaSalle.
That was very deep.
Was killed.
Yeah, that was deep.
And because of a mugging. And Edith had a crisis of faith. I mean, that's never really been done on network television.
Well, neither had flushing the toilet, but, you know, they did that too.
They did that in the pilot episode. The first episode, you hear the toilet flush.
Oh, my gosh.
And Archie Bunker comes down the stairs, because they did things on that show that were never done before. Never done before. And kudos to Norman Lear, because Norman Lear was a pioneer.
Fabulous.
You know, All in the Family, Maude, all of that. I mean, for God's sakes, Maude had an abortion in her first season.
Right.
A lot of people don't remember that, you know. And what I like about Norman Lear was he expected, you know, and rightfully so, a lot of pushback from certain women's groups that were promoting pro-life, and he donated to their causes. I don't know if that was really the right, you know, I mean, everyone's got their own opinion on pro-life and pro-choice, but Norman Lear was very mindful of what he was doing, but it was necessary in order to educate people on the issues and educate people on life itself. And it was kind of like a jump from like, okay, well, we're not going to be doing Leave It to Beaver where all the problems are solved in 22 minutes plus commercials. Okay? Because a lot of the issues on All in the Family were not solved in a half an hour.
Just like life. He mirrored life. He didn't try to change life.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
the difference. You know, a lot of writers feel obligated, and that's okay, feel obligated to present a story where their goal is to change a perspective. But Norman Lear just painted the picture. And he painted it so well and so vividly that it allowed you to see all the nuances. So you could actually decide, and you could go back and replay that, because it was so simplistic. It wasn't complicated.
You know what? I'll be very honest with you. I sometimes, you know, when I can't really find anything on TV that I want to watch, I know that sounds incredible in these current times.
Not to me.
because I laugh about it. I've got streaming services, I've got cable, I've got old school DVDs, and every so often I will hunt down an All in the Family episode that I fondly remember, and I will watch it. And I'm always noticing something new. That's the gift of Norman Lear.
Absolutely.
Because you can go back to something and say, oh, I didn't catch that the first time. And it can be something simple, like something that Gene Stapleton does in a scene, something that Carol O'Connor does, or Sally Struthers, or Rob Reiner. But especially Gene Stapleton. She's like one of my all-time favorite
Powerhouse. She delivered that character with such grace and such power. Very impacting.
Yeah, and I secretly I identify with Edith because as a gay man, especially living during these kind of times, I have to really reach inside of myself to maintain my optimism and my care for the world, because sometimes, Lord, I think I speak for quite a few people, it just gets to be so much where you feel yourself becoming jaded.
Yes.
And I identify with Edith, and I just kind of like make a note that I have to stop myself sometimes, because my mind goes here, and I'm like going, no, that's not where it needs to go. It needs to go here. And then I'll take a few moments and say, okay, I'm breathing again. Because in all seriousness, sometimes I have to just like not go near my phone.
No,
because
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You are one of the most positive persons that I know, seriously, and I appreciate that so much about you. And then, of course, the people that we both know, that we allow ourselves to be surrounded by, are very positive. And so to see and hear my friends, your friends, begin to crack under this pressure, I knew that things were really, really bad. There was no doubt in my mind then that things were really bad. And we needed a break from all of this madness. I mean, even right now, we should be able to rejoice and take a deep breath, but we can't, because we know that anything can happen in this stupidity that we're living in for the next 60 plus days. And that just is so unsettling. I think I'm going to have to watch a series tonight. You want to recommend something for me to watch?
Well, you know what? I actually, my husband Andrew had never seen the TV show West Wing. And I was shocked by that because, at first I was shocked, and then I thought about it, I go, wait, no, why am I being shocked? Because, Andrew was not political at all. Andrew voted. Andrew did a lot of work, before we met with AIDS awareness and volunteer opportunities with different groups over the years. So when Andrew and I met, I actually started him slow on politics, with Bill Maher and Rachel Maddow and Keith Olbermann when he had his show. So, but long story short, I was shocked at first, but then I thought about it, oh, wait a minute, he wouldn't watch West Wing because it was too political when in that stage of his life. So we sat down and watched it. He became obsessed with it. He was like, oh my God, can we put on West Wing? Let's watch West Wing. And he became very enamored of it. And I love the show because West Wing is like, and the reason why I was showing him West Wing was because I go, let's fantasize for a while as to how things should be. Let's pretend Joshua Bartlett is the president, and we have all these wonderful people working in this administration with the sole purpose of doing what's right for the constituents as a whole. Not just Republican or Democrat, but for the country as a whole. And to be honest with you, I felt a little better every time I watched an episode. So
I got a confession.
I don't know.
I have a confession. I never watched West Wing either.
Okay, so this is a perfect opportunity because that was going to be my next question. West Wing went on for 7 years, and I highly recommend it because the writing is, Aaron Sorkin is a brilliant writer. The cast is amazing. And what I like about it is that new characters come in and also, I mean, Stockard Channing is the first lady. And Stockard Channing is such a brilliant actress. And her and Martin Sheen together are just simply wonderful. So if you haven't seen it, L.A., I think that should be your next binge.
I will do it, and I suggest to you, while you're in the mood for watching political things, Madam Secretary. I have to tell you, whoever the casting, I read it and I've now forgotten, but the casting agency or agent that put those people together, ooh, what a brilliant pairing was completed. They are absolutely so suited for each other that you really step into their lives. You are sure you are there. There's just seamless. There's no time that you don't believe the characters' roles. It's just perfect. I really haven't. And again, I binged watched it because there was nothing else I wanted to see. Except for Biden to win. That was the only other thing I wanted to see.
Right, exactly. Well, you know what? It's kind of funny, too, because speaking of political shows, my coworker Karen, for the last few years, has been trying to get me to watch House of Cards with Kevin Spacey. So I finally sat down and started watching it. And you know what? I agree that it's probably a brilliant show. And the reason why I say I agree it's probably a brilliant show is I stopped after 4 or 5 episodes. I might go back to it, but you know what? I kept running through my mind. He kept reminding me of Trump.
Right.
The character kept reminding me of Trump.
And you just couldn't do it.
And you know what? If I want to see Trump, I can turn on CNN.
Right.
So that just didn't work for me. Like I said, maybe a couple years down the line, I'll go back and revisit it when we're in the second year of Biden-Harris presidency.
I have something else to tell you that's a confession, and I don't know if anybody else wants to confess to this. But I watch these shows now, and when there's an emotional pulling part, I cry like a baby. I mean, I just let it go. It's like the best therapy ever. I've always been a sentimental person, and I've always allowed myself to release my emotions when I'm at a movie theater or something like that. But I'm talking about, really crying. I'm talking about really letting it go.
Well, you know what? I actually totally agree with you on that because I've always been in tune with my emotions. I will cry at certain commercials.
Okay.
But I will share something with you the other day, and for people listening, because a lot of people don't know about this movie. Because I was kind of surprised when I mentioned it to some of my coworkers at work through a text. And it's a Christmas movie. It's perfect for this year. Perfect for this season. It's called The Family Stone, and it's got Diane Keaton and Sarah Jessica Parker. It's a family comedy drama, but it has some serious parts to it. And Andrew went out to go to the store. He came back. It was the end of the movie, and I'm sitting on the couch. He opens the door, and I didn't hear the door, and I'm ugly crying. You know ugly crying, right?
Right.
Where your face is all distorted.
Yes,
and
yes, I do.
You don't even look like yourself.
Yes, yeah, I do that, yeah.
Yeah, so I highly recommend that one. But going back to what you're saying, I totally agree with that. You know, we all know it's just a TV show, but with everything that's going on in the world, particularly in our country, I think it's important to I think there's something to be said, something that's healing about a good cry. It gets all of your emotions out. And I myself feel better after it.
Oh, I do too.
I'm a damn mess afterwards. I'm a serious mess, okay? But even when I do it, the dog is looking at me like going, "Oh, good Lord, child, please."
Well, it's like a rain. It's like a rain. It comes and it washes the dirt off the cars and cleans the oils and freshens the air and it just helps the flowers to blossom. It's just a good thing. It really is.
That's a really good analogy. I have never thought about it like that, because we all know that how the air itself smells after a good rainstorm.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yes, nothing like it.
And especially when you go outside, afterwards, and you walk around in it, and the skies are clear, the sun is coming through, everything is wet, and there's just this sense of newness.
Yes.
I think that's important as well, especially now, because these are just, oh my goodness, they're just really, really challenging times.
Thank you so very, very, very much for sharing your time and your thoughts. I always love to talk with you. It's always fun. It's always meaningful because you're a caring person. And it's just always enjoyable when we talk, because something good always comes out of it. So I thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you, L.A. And right back at you. I mean, you're like one of my go-to people when I myself am feeling like, whoo. Can we stop this merry-go-round? I need to get off for a while. So, but thank you for that, and thank you for what you do. It's very meaningful, and I think a lot of people would agree with me that you definitely make a difference. So thank you for that.
Thanks, honey. Kiss your husband for me.
I definitely will.
All right.
You have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You do not want to miss the next episode of Up is Higher Than Down. Do you remember the Mary Jane Girls? I had the opportunity to interview Maxie of the Mary Jane Girls. And guess what? Celebrities are no different than us. They're using TV and streaming and cable to get past all of this stress just like we are. Stay tuned.
Listen to Up is Higher Than Down with L.A. Walker. To follow up, make comments, discuss today's podcast, or find out how you can become a guest and share your victory over a negative life event, follow L.A. Walker. Up is Higher Than Down on Facebook. Look up, get up, stay up. Remember, any part of up is higher than down.